Okay, welcome to PoliceMotorTraining.com. I'm Quinn Redeker. Today I'm doing a rider review of a motor competition by Bobby Hall. He sent me this video to review. Understand that Bobby Hall is a very good rider. In fact, I believe this is a winning run. One of the things, the caveat to my review, in talking to him, he said, hey, listen, one of my goals, high penalty course, I was trying to just kind of cool it, ride smooth, and not hit anything. So arguably he could ride faster and harder than this, and strategically, oftentimes I'm seconds slower on competition day than I am on practice day. So that all understood totally. Smooth, good rider. So what I'm challenged to try to pick him apart, which is easy from my seat. Okay, so I want you all to know that are listening to this review, mad respect for this guy, but he's requesting I kind of dig into this, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So first thing I notice off the line, I always say launch out of the hole. This is the drag race. Why? Because if I beat you by 3 inches in a cone pattern, I've just beat you. So it doesn't matter, right? An inch is as good as a mile. So drag race hard out of the hole here. So let's start there. If you listen to that, it's just kind of brrr. We're kind of just sort of puttering into the pattern. Drive hard into that pattern. Carry more speed. Now, one of the things you'll notice when he goes around this corner, we're just kind of cruising around into that pattern. So what I would argue is drive hard out of the hole, carry momentum, and fall into this pattern under the brakes. So what we're really doing, I talk about overlapping controls, talk about trail braking, but rather than getting a little bit of a run out of the hole and then modulating your momentum and then starting to cruise around this left-hand circle, hammer into this section and come into it on the brakes and let gravity and centrifugal force kind of push you to the outside and carry some momentum around here. That alone, I guarantee you, if we were to hear just this one section alone and played around with this on a practice day, I could get him just right here, one full bike length ahead of where he ended up just after this circle. So it's significant.
What's going on? How you doing? We'll see you in a minute. So,
I'm not going to go too far down the rabbit hole. Early clutch setup would make this easier also. So just one of those things. Okay, same thing here. This section here, all this here, we could be pushing a little harder and falling into this on the brakes. So rather than kind of cruising through here, he's smooth and he's not hitting anything, but drive a little harder into here so that we're dropping into this on the brakes. We're going to get good traction, settle the bike down, and we're going to definitely go faster. Okay, that spot right there, rapid transitions, rapid transitions. So what do I mean by that? I mean, clutch pop, use your feet. Let's blast through here pretty fast, okay? So after we come around the circle, right here, we're on the gas. And again, don't think of a motor competition as a set it and forget it speed course. It is a combination of inches, battling for every inch that you can get. If there's a section that's 3 feet long, get your clutch out a little further and get a little bit more throttle into this thing and get 2 inches ahead of me in this section. Why? Because there's 100 turns and it adds up into hundreds of inches, which means seconds at the end of this thing. Okay. I mentioned this, one of the things that as far as getting your head around, it's here, just one of those things. He's again, he's a good rider, so a lot of times getting your head around really helps you actually pull off a turn that maybe, or a tight section, the keyhole, something you couldn't do before. He doesn't have any problem with any of these tight sections, so if he's comfortable where he's looking, all I would say is the further down track you can look, the slower the course starts to feel, and it starts to motivate you to want to get going faster because you feel like you're kind of dragging. So if you're, again, it's just like going 80 miles an hour on the freeway with your head right over the hood or looking a quarter mile down the freeway, it's gonna really help you get more comfortable with improving your speed. Let's see this section here, right here, that transition. Again, it's smooth. he gets through, he's not hitting anything, I would say clutch pop and using your feet. So rapid transitions right here. Rapid transitions there. Again, we're talking about inches, but that would have him dropping into this left turn a little bit faster. This whole section here, we could go way faster. So listen to the engine. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit. So this whole spot, this is another thing with cone patterns. We can get stuck in the mindset of slipping the clutch. Why? Because it's a tight, slow section. But there are going to be areas where we can let that clutch out and get full power to the rear wheel. This is one of those areas. So that's, he's slipping the clutch all through here. I understand he's got to jog through it and it's very tight, but it's also an area where we could maybe pick up a little bit of speed here and delineate between slipping the clutch or on that long left-hand sweeper to really driving through here, and using your feet to move this bike over a little bit faster and just blast through here. And as I mentioned before, when you have momentum and you're coming into a long sweeper like that, let's carry momentum and come through here on the brakes. Why? Because now we're accomplishing multiple things at once rather than going slower through here so that we have a nice pace to drop in here. Go faster through here and start to modulate your momentum as you're coming around this turn. And so you're slowing down, you're settling the bike, you're planning it, but ultimately you're carrying a little bit more speed, okay? So find areas to push, even 5%, just a tiny bit. Challenge yourself to find those areas on the course where you can really push your bike a little bit. Okay, what do we got here? Right here, see this section right here? So he's smooth around this turn, but I want to hear that motor rev a little bit. Why? Because we have a tiny little section we can squeeze a little bit of speed. So this is smooth, but we, right in here, hammer the throttle, get 3 inches further along than you were before, and ultimately put more power to the wheel is going to help that thing transition from that sweeping left position that we're in here to that right position that we're in there. So adding power would have accomplished a couple things. It would have made this right-hand drop-in easier, and it would have moved us 2 feet further, maybe a foot further, maybe 6 inches further. Who cares? Now this whole section, this is, we can go fast. We should be going fast. And then again, dropping into this left-hander on the brakes. Right there. Why aren't we driving? And now when we drop in, we're on the brakes into that. So rapid transitions, clutch pop, using your feet. I think through this whole section that we just covered right here, we could be hammering a little harder. Again, any little section, transitioning from a left, dropping into a right, there's an area where that bike's straight up and down and we can push it a little bit harder than we are. And using your feet, using your little clutch pop will absolutely help speed that up. Now he's leaning inside. I always talk about counterbalancing, or what I call balance ball. And one of the things, and it's a little blurry for you to see that, he's more or less straight up and down with the bike, and in some cases a little bit on the inside. Now what I found is with some of the faster guys, Harley specifically, that has less ground clearance than my Beamer does, they tend to do that. So I'm not going to speak to that he needs to be counterbalanced more, because he's got speed that will drag hard parts I'm sure pretty quickly without him having to really struggle to do that. So he probably more often than not has to find a way to keep the momentum up without driving this bike into the ground. And one of those ways to do that is to start getting his weight shifted onto the inside a little bit. The one thing I would say with that is, if you can balance on that bike and then you can push it really, really hard, you start losing the tires, anything like that, you're not going to fall. If your weight's on the inside and you lose your traction, you're more than likely going to hit the ground. So that's one of the things I like about my balance ball technique. is that it does sort of save you when you really want to start pushing, especially when surface appraisal sucks. So right there, rapid transitions. Let's pop that bike. Let's accelerate a little bit harder and transition quicker. Same thing all through here. That whole section, rapid transitions, okay? We're just gonna watch that one more time. So, rapid transitions. I won't say any more on that. He starts driving out of the hole. That's excellent. But I want you to pay attention to, this is a long straightaway. How long is he on the throttle? And it's a rhetorical question. Not long enough. The answer is he should be driving, he could be driving harder on the throttle and longer on the throttle, and then come into the next section, which is a left-hander on the brakes. So listen to how long we're on the gas. So we're off it. You hear that, and it's just a quick little burst. But look how long this straightaway is. So it's a bad vantage point of it, but he's off the gas probably somewhere around here. I'm just saying we could probably get off the gas somewhere around here and drop into that section on the brakes, which would probably be advantageous for us. Those little revs that we hear, in my experience, and I could be wrong, generally I consider those they're the motorcycle's version of somebody talking to you going they're not really saying anything, but they're just making noise. So when I hear a motorcycle do that vroom, vroom, I think, okay, well, we're not off the gas and we're not on the gas, and the fact that it's free revving like it was in neutral tells me we're not putting power to the rear wheel. So that should be a good indicator. If any of you guys have videos of yourselves and you hear the motor doing that, ask yourself, what's the bike actually doing while I'm giving it a couple little revs? Because I can tell you this, you should either be accelerating or braking, period. If you're coasting, you're wasting everybody's time, all right? And this is a rapid transition section. This is a little straightaway. It's short, but again, if I beat you by a half an inch, I beat you. So I'm hearing little sections where we're going through this. I'm just, rather than make this video too long, I would just say, again, rapid transitions. Don't just set it and forget it on that clutch. Even though this is a tight section, let's challenge ourselves to get that clutch out. So it sounds like we're dropping in on the right, almost coasting, and we're finding that gray area a little later. So listen. So right here. There's nothing going on there. He's on the brakes. My point is, let's go a little quicker through this. Let's make this a transition section where we can push a little bit. Get over the bike. That's one other thing I want you to notice. We get so locked into being in the gray area with the clutch, where we're slipping that clutch, that when we have little areas and opportunities where there's a straightaway, like we're in right here, we tend to, we're letting the clutch out a little bit, but not nearly as much as we could. Let that clutch out, and it's going to take practice for you to get good at modulating between almost letting the clutch fully out and fully engaged, and then finding that sweet spot where you're comfortable navigating really tight stuff. But if you can blast that clutch out just a little bit here and there, you're going to squeeze that power to the rear wheel and push your bike forward. So just one last second, I want to watch this and just listen to the clutch slipping where we could actually be pushing the bike harder. Right here. Here it comes. Right here. So we could be pushing that bike harder, get the clutch out a little bit more. Again, I'm nitpicking this guy, and it's really easy to do that from my comfortable chair, okay? Again, his weight was on the inside, so not balance ball, but he's also scraping hard parts here, so that kind of speaks to what I was talking about before. Now, one last thing on that finish. as I talk about, when we let that clutch out, let it out. We get stuck in that gray area. And what I mean by that is we're giving the bike throttle and the motor's making noise, but we're still keeping the bike in that sweet spot, so we're not moving forward as much as we could. That bike could have driven a lot harder out of that little spot right there. Just, it's little, but do that 100 times and then it's huge. Okay, so that is my review. Bobby is a solid rider. He didn't hit anything, and that is goal number one, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter how fast you are if you can't do it clean. So the fact that he did it clean, and like I said, I believe this was a first place run. Kudos. Excellent riding. And it's like I said, it's easy for me to sit here and start picking things apart, but I can tell you this guy is a solid rider and capable of a lot of little fine tuning that's going to blast him into a whole other category where he doesn't let 1 inch of a cone pattern wasted. He doesn't waste any of it. He will be able to move through those sections by taking advantage of every single inch in the cone pattern, and that is what's going to make him quite a bit faster. So excellent run, good job, and I look forward to seeing where this guy gets to.